Teachers of Reddit, what's the funniest thing you've heard a student say that you unfortunately had to punish them for? Student, small dicks matter. Me, AJ, let's keep it school appropriate. Student, small penises matter. Couldn't help but laugh. Last week, I joking told one of my grade 8 students that he better behave because Santa was watching. He strolled away saying nonchalantly, "Santa, my ass." I cracked up. My girlfriend is a teacher. There was a little boy in her class who was finger painting. He stops, looks at his hands and says, "Now how the fuck do I get this off?" Not me but my fiancée. She's a really great teacher but was having trouble with this one class. One of the students asked her, "Mrs. Teacher, do you have any kids?" Fiancé, "Oh God no. Kid, that might be for the best." Teaching a class of high school seniors. They were pissed about something and wouldn't let me get a word in. Worst asshole in the class raises his hand for probably the first time in his life, so I call on him. He says, "Thank you, mister. I don't know what you're trying to tell us, but I think everyone needs to shut the fuck up so you can talk." Took everything in my power not to crack up. I didn't get him in trouble. He won a place in my heart that day. One of our students, learning disabled, dumped a glass of water on another student, also learning disabled, because we don't have time for naps today. We have to watch a movie. I cried real tears under my desk because I could not stop laughing. Kid in my class was given some bad news once and exclaimed, "Aw shit," right on my dick. It was inappropriate, but it sounded so incredibly genuine and defeated. My English teacher, early 20s, fresh out of school, looked like she was in physical pain, having to punish him, despite laughing uncontrollably and feeling sympathy for his situation. I was teaching nutrition and garden education to second graders. Really sick, all hopped up on cold medicine on a rainy day, and discussing our agrarian community. Me, does anyone know any farmers? Kid, yeah, my uncle is a farmer. Me, nice. What does he farm? Kid, pot. Me, slowly blinks class, giggles me, okay. We're talking fruits and vegetables here. People. Does anyone else know a farmer? How about Farmer John? Do you guys know Farmer John? With the pumpkins? Babbling continues. I teach pre-K. The kids were out at recess and one was riding a bike wearing his helmet, as he should. One of my girls walked by and hit him over the head with our plastic baseball bat. I asked her why she did that. She replied, he has a helmet on." I had to turn away and snort before telling her it wasn't okay to hit anyone, even if they have a helmet. A friend of mine teaches first grade. One day her class was watching Hercules, and during the scene where Hades is smoking a cigar, a kid shouts, "Miss Dash. He's smoking a fat blunt." I can't imagine trying to keep a straight face when she had to tell her that she can't say that kind of stuff in school. "Hey Mississippi. Will you touch my weenus?" Standing there in silent shock, student slowly bends elbow and points to it, "Weenus." This was the day I learned what a weenus is. Apparently, they had just come from biology. Ended up not really formally punishing the kid. It was, in fact, a weenus, but I did need a minute to control the laughter before I could teach again. We had a conversation about what appropriateness and context are after class. When attempting to explain the physics of leverage and moving a heavy thing, I said, "You can move it the way the Egyptians did." Kid immediately piped, "You get a bunch of Jewish slaves to do it." From South Korea, we were learning good at. I am good at soccer. I am good at English. Teacher. She's good at ugly. Overheard a grade 6 student tell a group of kids in his class that if they don't take their Viagra, they wouldn't be able to please their girlfriend. It was surprising. Not a teacher. But in 6th grade I remember one of my classmates who was a wannabe gangsta, although super funny, get annoyed that our teacher was handing out papers with a new assignment on them. When she got to him, he said, "Don't give me that sheet." Everyone lost it, including the teacher, but he still got detention for it. This teacher has had 4 last names because of remarrying in the last 5 to 6 years. An 11-year-old student was wondering why this teacher has had so many names. 11 years old Mrs. "Have you been married before?" Teacher, "Yes." 11 years old, "Oh, so you're a hoe?" The kid honestly didn't mean it to be mean. He just thought that is what you call someone who has been married a few times. Luckily the teacher didn't take offense to it and said, "Well, he isn't wrong." However, his homeroom teacher wasn't as forgiving. I worked at an alternative ed school for kids who were expelled from their old schools. I taught a class of 8th grade boys, so I have tons of great stories. My favorite was one day I was reading out loud from the newspaper that Old Country Buffet was closing down. And one of my students said, Are you fucking kidding me, while simultaneously punching a hole in the window? I laughed so hard but also had to give him detention and fill out a ton of paperwork. Edit. I'm glad this story entertained you guys. These kids were no joke. I had a full-time therapist in my room with me because it was such a liability to be alone with them. The kids had daily therapy sessions to help them deal with their anger issues, trauma, etc. Most of my students were affiliated with gangs and got in a lot of trouble for drug-related crimes. About half my kids were in detention centers before coming to my classroom, and a lot of them had ankle monitors. Old Country Buffet Kid was an especially large 14-year-old. His file said he got expelled from his old school because he was very into the Twilight series, and some kids made fun of him for it, so he beat the shit out of them. He did need stitches after the window incident. This was from a friend teaching second grade kid. Miss O. There's a bad word written in the bathroom. Teacher, what's the word? Kid, it's so bad. I can't tell you. Teacher, it's okay, you can tell the teacher. Kid, oh no, I can't say that word. But I'll give you a hint. It starts with Z and rhymes with fuck. Teacher. I am a teacher, but the funniest punishment I know of was not for one of my students, it was for my son. My son is the quietest kid I have ever met. He gets extremely anxious. When he was 4, his grandfather died unexpectedly and he got even quieter. For years, he did not generally talk with schoolmates or ever ask adults, besides me, for help. I had to explain this to his new teachers every year. By the time he was 8, it was routine to go to parent-teacher conferences and have teachers share he was a good student, but they wished he would talk more. I went to a conference with his second grade teacher and she said, I need to tell you, your son got in trouble for talking to friends in class today. I asked him to stop and he still disrupted the class, so I had to put his name on the board. When you get home, will you tell him how proud I am of him and give him a high five? We had one of the best times ever at family dinner that night. This is more of something a student did. About a month ago I hear a kid yelling, my eyes are burning. I ask him what's wrong and he says that another kid sprayed him with something. I go to that kid and he hands me a bottle of Warhead spray candy and says it's just water. When I told him that water doesn't burn eyes, he replies with, well, I did put salt in it. Teaching first grade and a kid came up to me and said, Miss, E just said something bad, so I walk over to E and ask if he said something inappropriate. He shrugs, looks sheepish and says I said cows have big boobies. I literally paused with my mouth open, was not expecting that one. I had been painting over some Sharpie on the wall with oil paint or Kills or something similar, but the smell lingers for a long time. High schoolers start to come in for class, girl A yells, why's IT stink in here? Girl B says, because yo mouth is open. Girl A rifles back, because yo legs is open. Miss K, how do you know if you have swamp ass? Miss K, I would make a terrible hooker. I have bad knees. Jose, I'm gonna grab you by the nipple hair and kick your ass. All of these from the exact same class. I taught freshmen a few years ago. They had some imaginations. Edit. My first silver is a post about swamp ass and nipple hair. Here's to you, Reddit. I taught literacy for an after-school program, K6, and it seemed like those kids had too many funny but inappropriate moments. One of my favorites, come on bitches. First grade girl to her classmates as they walk down the hall. Not a teacher, but my mom is. At a private Catholic elementary school during Mass. A 4th grade boy was giving the sign of peace, shaking hands with those around him and saying peace or peace be with you, and instead of saying peace he was muttering penis under his breath. He got a detention, but she said it was pretty funny and they all laughed about it later. Their insults to each other have evolved. We used to call each other's mums. The other day I heard your mum smells like the coral reef when she opens her legs, your nan is a slag, and your dad touches other dads. I was covering for a teacher named Kathy, late in her pregnancy and due for maternity anytime, who had just stepped out for a few minutes. While I was sitting next to this 6-year-old, Wiley, we noticed that one bench among all of the others was deformed in its construction. Wiley, whoa. What happened to this bench? Me, I don't know, Wiley. What do you think happened to this bench? Hoping he'll see the difference in construction, Wiley. It probably broke because Kathy sat on it since she gained a load of weight. Me? I had recess duty a few years ago. A kindergarten girl came running over with another girl right after her and said she called me the B word. When I asked the second student if she called the first student the B word, she turned to the first one and said motherfucker doesn't start with a B. I managed to turn my laugh into a cough, but yeah, no more recess for her that day. Edited to add holy crap, my inbox has exploded overnight. I also received my first platinum, gold and silver ever, so thank you. I don't think the first girl even realized motherfucker was a swear, so she was focused on the word bitch. During our outside time, one student told multiple others that Ms. T is humping on somebody's mama. I have a hard time making the time for that with my own husband, much less somebody else's mom. It killed me to keep a straight face. I had them call their parent and repeat it because there was no way I could without giggling. My mom was an elementary teacher and always had a few good ones share. One that stands out in my head is a story about a bus ride on a field trip. Her second grade students started playing some music. At one point, they started singing along and my mom got really excited because they were spelling. They're spelling. That's so great. It took her a moment to realize what they were spelling. An entire bus filled with 7 and 8-year-olds was rolling down the road with about 40 little voices singing, "'Cause I'm a motherfucking P.I.M.P." We were doing reward points at the end of the day. It was a behavioral school. One of our first graders sitting in the front row kept rolling a sheet of printer paper into a tube despite being reminded to put it away. When he was called to be ready to get his backpack in the hallway, he blew into the paper tube horn view as loud as possible. I'd never seen him so happy to get a timeout. I actually didn't punish this kid, though I was supposed to, but I couldn't stop laughing. So, whenever my high schoolers whine about something, I say, "Into every life a little rain must fall." Which is my polite and deliberately annoying way of saying suck it up. By the end of the year, they're so used to it that all I have to do is say "into every life." And they roll their eyes and grumble, but at least they stop complaining. Well, one day a kid comes in my room and he's already complaining about something that hasn't even happened yet. So I say "into every life." And he says "a little rain must fall," I know. But Mrs. Danny Calliope, it's a FNG thunderstorm right now. I teach non-native English speakers at the college level, so they don't get in trouble for misspeaking, but there are often hilarious utterances. Two of my favorite: student asking for a sheet of paper, "Can I have a piece of sheet?" Walking in well after class had started, "Sorry, teacher. I got late." "What?" "Sorry for getting late to class." "Oh. I thought you said." I got pages to this thread, so here we go. I teach in a rural school district in Wisconsin. The kid in question was a self-proclaimed redneck and proud of it. He also never swore in front of me, because it was impolite. I overheard him sometimes, but he was careful to watch his language around me. One day, he tries to sell me sunglasses for a fundraiser, but I wasn't interested. I have prescription sunglasses, so I had no interest in putting cheap sunglasses over my regular glasses. He kept pressing me, telling me that if I wore my sunglasses to a music festival that happens not too far from us, the guys would be all over me. Upon informing him that I was engaged at the time, the first words out of his mouth were, "I ain't seen a ring yet that can plug a hole." There was a pause, then a look of horror crossed his face. "Oh my God, I just said that to a teacher." He covered his head and said to me in this quiet, pleading voice, "Please don't tell my mom." I didn't. I had to have a talk with him and documented it in our system as a minor infraction for inappropriate language, but never called his mom or sought punishment. His reaction was worth it. Not a teacher. My 10-year-old son was hit in the face by a girl, and instead of physical retaliation, "Boys don't hit girls," he asked her if she scraped her knees when she crawled out of hell. Hard to keep a straight face in that parent-teacher meeting. My friend told me this story. We're both teachers in South Korea. She was teaching 6th, 5th grade kids the song, "Marry You" for an English performance her school was putting on. Her Korean co-teacher thought it would be super cute if the boys held bouquets, got down on one knee, and proposed to the girls at the end of the performance. One boy exclaimed, "What the fuck?" My friend died laughing. Not the teacher, but back when I was in high school I witnessed a guy basically break the teacher. We were all seniors in a government class, and the teacher was the kind who wore a suit and tie to class. Well spoken, wanted his students to succeed, put up with zero bullshit. Anyway. We were all talking before class began, and as the final bell rang and we all started to go quiet, this random guy practically shouted, "And the dude stuck his foot in her pussy. Now she's got athlete's cunt." The entire class lost their shit. And the poor teacher had this look on his face like he didn't know whether to double over in laughter or yell at the kid. He chose to quietly scold the kid while choking back laughs. Kid was doodling on the whiteboard at the front of the class and I told him to cut it out because he was going to waste the marker. It was the end of the year and I didn't want to have to buy more. He grins and then says, but it's just the tip. And then another student yelled out, that's what she said. I tried so hard to keep a straight face and failed so badly. In 1975 I was in a spelling bee for 3rd graders and the word was ship. My friend who came from a rather wild home spelled out shit. S-H-I-T and immediately realized what she did. Teacher turned red from trying not to laugh and just asked her to sit down because she was out. Mr. Brown's dead now, but he was an amazing teacher. I teach Hebrew to kids, and they were practicing writing their names. One of the kids was named David. Which looks like this in Hebrew DVD. One of David's classmates looked over his shoulder and yelled, "Hey David. Your name is Tit. Because it's read right to left and because I've seen those letters and that name a million times. I never would have seen that." But as soon as he said it I realized he's 100% right, it looks like it says Tit. Cracked me up. Not appropriate for class though. First day of senior lit. Mr. Proser said I have 2 rules. 1. Don't piss me off. You can say anything in here that you can say in front of your mother. Chad fucking ass kicking deal man. Mr. Proser, let's talk after class. Taught speech, public speaking class. While giving an informational speech on Vikings, students got to choose their own topic. An 11th grade student gave the following transition when it came to rating coastal cities. The Vikings, much like an overeager or inexperienced lover, came quickly and unexpectedly. It was delivered with the perfect comedic timing, a total deadpan tone, and impeccable poise. I braced myself immediately to keep from laughing and felt every student I turned to me in dead silence. It was a very conservative school and students were looking to me to see if it was alright to laugh. I broke out in a sweat trying to hold back, but was successful. I had to dock the student 10% for inappropriate language, but considering he still got an 85% or so, we both agreed it was worth it.